Hello! Today I'm going to be swatching and comparing the two new Urban Decay moondust palettes. This one is Space Riter, and it's the most neutral out of the two. There's 4 shades in each, and all of these are in their super popular moondust formula. And to be honest, the only reason why I got this one was because it was one with Space Cowboy, and I'm very sure they knew that. I've been slightly influenced by Lauren May Beauty because she always raves about this formula, and I got curious. These palettes are limited edition and they sounded like a good deal because the singles are like 20, so I thought, why not? Now this other one is Galactic Cowgirl. Again, there's 4 shadows in the moondust formula, but this one has less neutral leaning colors. And even then, they're really not that different, and it's a similar formula, so I think I would recommend people to just get the one and skip the other. Unless you know that you love this formula and that you're gonna use it a lot, or that you like those differences enough to justify both. But as you can see, they look a bit similar, so I'm going to swatch them side by side, and that way you can see if the both interest you, or if it's just the one, or none of them at all. Now, with that out of the way, let's just get into the swatches. So this is the first shade from the Space Riter palette. It's called Star Cowgirl. It's described as a light champagne golden pearl with gold flecks. This is one of the least sparkly shadows in the palette, so that should tell you everything you need to know. This one is very light and kind of smooth, doesn't have a base. These formulas feel very dry compared to what I'm used to with indie eyeshadows. Next, this is pretty much the start of the show, Space Cowboy. By the way, this palette is not magnetic, but the pens are, so I depotted this earlier today. Because using these as singles is one of the reasons why I wanted them, and I know they're standard size. The description is a light champagne gold with silver sparkle. The formula in this one is unlike anything I've seen before because it's like a sheer base and the sparkle is just sitting on top, but it doesn't mix. I don't know how to describe it, but it gives that wet effect because of the way the sparkle is scattered around. So yeah, I was very late to this one. Next, this is Well Deeper Writes Again. This one is described as a rosy pink shimmer with silver flecks. This is the most intense shade of this palette. You can see it pops a lot more because of the darker base. It gives it a more intense look than the others. The others have a soft look to them compared to this one. And this is the last shade of Space Riter. It's called Cosmic Space Dust. It's described as a light coffee brown shimmer with silver flecks. This one has a base to it, it's like a light brown, and the sparkle is this one is not as large as the other shades. So this one's pretty basic, like a smooth gold shade. It's not revolutionary, but I guess it works in this palette if you would like to use just this one. Now moving on to the Galactic Cowgirl palette. This is going to be the first shade and it's called Cosmic Cowgirl. This one is described as a soft white champagne shimmer with silver flecks. I consider this to be the most reflective shade out of the 2 palettes. I don't know if it's just the fact that it's a straight white, but it looks like the sparkle is a bit bigger than the rest. It doesn't have a base at all, but it does shine a lot. It doesn't shift or anything, but I think a shade like this is going to be pretty useful for my purposes. But it does remind me of a certain Dennis Amarix shade, and I'm going to check that out later. Next, this is Cowgirl Warrior, a magenta shimmer with silver flecks. This one's also pretty sparkly, as you can see. It reminds me a little bit of the other pink shade on the other palette, so I'm going to compare them later on. As you can see, the base in this one is a bit more rosy and the particle size is a bit larger. It reflects the light very beautifully. Next, this is Cowgirl Riter, a golden orange shimmer with gold flecks. The orange base in this one really works to make that gold give a little pop. The application of this one is very smooth, and as you can see, this is one of the darker bases in this palette. Again, this shade is nothing revolutionary, but it's a nice shade. And lastly, this is Emo Cowboy, an icy baby blue shimmer with silver and blue flecks. On the finger it looks like a plain silver, but once swatched out you can see those little flecks of baby blue. This one has a sheer silver base, and again it looks like a bit of a blue silver rather than just a plain silver. And it has a super subtle shift. If you can see at the corner, it looks like a little bit of that pink showing through, but it's so subtle I don't think anyone would notice this in real life. All of these shades are more about the sparkle rather than the shift. I did a little wear test with Space Cowboy because I was very curious how that one would last. It transferred a little and I had a little fallout throughout the day, but nothing major. I did the same test with Cosmic Cowgirl and my findings are the same. So the dryness in the moondust formula makes this least likely to crease, but more likely to have fallout. So keep that in mind when you pick your primer. And now for the comparisons. This is Cosmic Cowgirl at the top compared to the Nessamyrix Angels from the Light World Volume 4 palette. These are extremely close, except that Nessamyrix is a bit cooler and has smaller particle size. This is Cowgirl Warrior at the top, followed by Well Deeper Rights again. Next is Rose Gold 005 by Pat McGrath. And lastly, it's Shaken by Colourpop. None of these are exactly the same, but they give off very similar vibes. Next, at the top is Star Cowgirl, followed by Nude Moon from Pat McGrath. And lastly, it's Just a Kiss from Dose of Colors. Again, not the same but similar. Next, this is Cosmic Space Dust at the top, followed by Ella from the I Need a Nude palette. The one from Natasha Denona is less sparkly and a bit more warm. Next, it's Emo Cowboy at the top, followed by Good God by JD Glow, then Starboy and Electric Lemonade from Luxie Beauty. This one is a bit more muted than anything else that I have in my collection. Next, this is Space Cowboy compared to Astral Solstice from Pat McGrath, and yeah, I have absolutely nothing similar to that one. I remember thinking the Pat McGrath shade seems scattered, but it doesn't look scattered in comparison to the Urban Decay shade. Now I'm just going to swatch both of the palettes together so you can see how they look. I don't think anyone needs to own both of these honestly. I just picked them both because I thought I didn't have enough of these shimmery shades that don't shift. So I thought it was a good deal. This is how the whole palette looks together. I would recommend Space Riter for those who prefer a softer and more neutral look. Next I'm going to be swatching Cosmic Cowgirl just under here. To me, I think these palettes are different enough. I don't mind having both, but at the same time, if I knew what I know now, I would have grabbed this palette because it has slightly more intense shades. And I would just grab Space Cowboy as a single. But also I've heard some people say that the Space Cowboy in here is a bit sparklier than the original one, so you know, I'm not mad at it. And I think you can see here, they have a similar vibe, but they're not exactly the same. Here's some sunlit swatches for those of you who like to see the sparkle under the sunlight. And to counteract that, here's the same swatches, but on indoor indirect natural lighting. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you like one or two or neither? I hope this helped you make up your mind if you were unsure on any of these. So yeah, that'll be all for me for now. Thank you for watching and have a lovely day.